This video was inspired by a seemingly innocuous picture. However, it has attracted the attention of conspiracy theorists. The reason? An antique statue depicting a girl holding an object that strikingly resembles a modern laptop, or, as it is called, a laptop. It is known that the age of this statue exceeds 2,500 years. It belongs to one of the ancient civilizations. Researchers dealing with unexplained phenomena are convinced that the ancient peoples possessed technologies that are now unavailable even to the most advanced society. It is reported that this sculpture is a so-called grave nask and is an exhibit of the Art Museum in Los Angeles, California. The statue is made of marble and is titled Grave Naiski of a Woman with a Servant. For reference, naiski are small architectural structures that were installed in the cemeteries of ancient Greece as gravestone reliefs. They usually depicted a deceased person. Scientists who have studied this artifact claim that it belongs to the Greco-Roman period. However, the photo of the sculpture, which appeared on the internet, caused a heated discussion. As is often the case, opinions are divided. One part of society is sure that this find is another proof of the existence of highly developed civilizations in antiquity. The other group is skeptical, saying that the object in the girl's hands, just a box, powder bottle, or other mundane accessory of the era. But if it really is a jewelry box, why does it have such a flat shape? And why would a jewelry box, or, say, a plaque have two holes in the side? Moreover, if the child was holding a jewelry box, the woman would logically be looking at its horizontal surface. But in this mysterious image, she is clearly looking at the top of the object, and that's where the laptop screen is usually located. Okay, let's say it's not a box, but a mirror, and the woman is looking at her reflection. Then another question arises: why are there two big holes in the mirror case? But if we consider the version with a laptop, these holes could well be USB ports. Let's assume that the girl is still holding a traditional wax tablet, a board with poured dark wax, used for writing. But then where are the fastenings between its surfaces? It is known that wax tablets had special holes where cords or straps were threaded through to fasten several tablets together. However, in this case, no traces of fastening are visible. Ufologists and conspiracy theorists also could not pass by this find and offered their version. In their opinion, this statue, evidence of contact between the ancient Greeks and extraterrestrial civilizations. Perhaps the aliens gave people a device resembling a laptop to promote their development. But a simpler explanation cannot be ruled out. Perhaps, the sculptor thus wanted to give mystery to the depicted woman, hinting that she owns some mysterious object and knows how to use it. What do you think of such versions, dear viewers? What do you think about this strange artifact of distant antiquity? Of course, according to the first rule of philosophy, there are as many people as there are opinions. If we support the analysis of this sculpture with psychological factors, in particular the peculiarities of human imagination, we can come to the conclusion that everyone sees in it what he wants to see. We, living in the era of high-tech gadgets, immediately notice in this object a resemblance to a laptop. But, for example, people in the 1920s, seeing the same artifact, would likely have perceived it as a mirror or a jewelry box. But what if that's really what it was going for? It was as if the sculptures, engravings, ancient photographs and drawings of the past were waiting for a full-blown technological breakthrough to finally open people's eyes. But to what truth? The truth that we may not be the first civilization on this planet. Perhaps our history is just another spin on the wheel of samsara. Civilizations are born, develop, reach their peak and then fade away, disappearing in the flow of time. This topic has been raised many times on the internet, and many researchers pay attention to the fact that everything new is the well-forgotten old. A vivid evidence of this can be ancient photographs, engravings and drawings, which depict devices that appeared officially only in our time. Pay attention to these archival photos from the early 20th century. And now let's remember the not-so-long-ago movie Men in Black 3, where the audience was first shown an incredible monowheel, or, as it is also called, a monocycle. Of course, the 20th century is still recent history, but if we travel to the deeper past, we see even more amazing findings. Take, for example, one of the world's most mysterious civilizations, the Mayans. They remain shrouded in mystery, not only because of their sudden disappearance, but also because of the incredible cultural heritage left behind. One such artifact is the famous sarcophagus lid of a Mayan chief. There is a theory that it depicts not just a deity, but a being sitting inside a complex structure resembling a rocket or other type of flying machine. If you look at other, equally ancient images, you can see a similar motif, a person or deity inside a strange mechanism. It resembles the cabin of a flying machine, and the absence of wheels in the image makes one wonder, was this machine airborne? Or maybe water? If you carefully compare these images with modern helicopters, you can see the similarities. The figure of the pilot, streamlined design, control levers and mechanisms, and if you look closely, even something similar to headphones with a microphone brought to the mouth. Of course, we can say that this is just a method of association, when a person sees familiar things in unknown images. Modern scientists believe that the ancient Maya in this way depicted the deceased leader in a ritual pose, symbolizing rebirth and connection with the beyond. It also mentions the feathered serpent, a revered deity in many tribes of the New World, although under different names. But is it also unambiguous? Or are we just not yet ready to accept the obvious? The internet reports that the Mayans called this deity Kukulkan, the Aztecs, Quetzalcoatl, and the Kitch people, Cucumats. Perhaps the difference is only in the pronunciation, because the functions of these godlike beings in different peoples were the same. They came to impart important knowledge to people and teach them useful things. If you think about it, it all adds up. What if these beings described by ancient civilizations were not ordinary deities? Perhaps they were reptiloids or other highly evolved beings who came in unknowable machines to impart knowledge to the people of the past. Or an even more intriguing hypothesis. What if these deities are none other than time travelers, wandering through different eras, intervening in the course of history and conducting experiments on the development of civilizations? They leave technological hints, help in the formation of cultures, and then fly off into the future to see how much their interference has affected progress. Of course, we can argue about this endlessly, but today I do not want to dwell only on the mysteries of the Mayan civilization. Let's turn to no less interesting things. You have probably already heard mesmerizing stories about how Jules Verne described the future in his works with amazing accuracy, and his predictions are connected with mysticism. He is often joined by Herbert Wells, who is credited with time travel, which supposedly inspired him to create thrilling fantasy stories. But I'm sure there are those among you who haven't heard of one of the strangest men of the 19th century. His name was Albert Robida. This French cartoonist, writer and illustrator, 1848 to 1926, was a true science fiction star of his time. In 1883, his book with the promising title, The 20th Century, was published in Paris. And then came Electric Life. Then as a draftsman he often slipped into caricature, because of which the public did not take his predictions seriously. But he predicted the appearance of tanks, depicted all types of airplanes 30 years before their actual appearance, and described wars with the use of asphyxiating gases. The plot of XX Century, at first glance a funny love story between a young engineer George Loris and the charming Stella Comp, may seem frivolous. But if you read into the details, it becomes obvious. The book contains startling predictions of technical and social change. Robida foresaw weather control, the development of aeronautics, the advent of air beacons for airships, telephonoscopes, devices for transmitting images over distance, body repair technologies, and even methods for capturing energy from other planets. Such accurate predictions raise questions. Is this really a fantasy of the future? Or perhaps Robida was simply reminiscing about the not-so-distant past? There is an interesting hypothesis that our civilization is far from the first that has managed to achieve technological progress. What if before us there were other advanced societies that had already passed this way, but for unknown reasons disappeared, leaving only echoes of their knowledge in the form of such predictions? Some civilizations developed further than us, others stopped at an earlier stage, but the essence remains the same. Drawings, oral histories, and descriptions of technology could migrate from one era to the next, passing from the ruins of vanished civilizations to nascent societies, albeit with distortions. Just look at what Albert Robida was drawing in 1883. This man demonstrates devices that seem surprisingly familiar to us. For example, his telephonoscope, whose name comes from the French word tele, remote, is a screen hanging on the wall like a painting. It allows you to play back images of theater productions and even communicate with loved ones at a distance. Doesn't it remind you of a mixture of TV, video calling, and smart TV? In fact, it's Skype from 1883. But that's not all it is. In his imaginary XX Century, Robida describes electro-pneumatic trains, tubes on which high-speed trains move, analogous to modern vacuum trains, women in pants, in those days it was unthinkable, 18-story skyscrapers. And here's the Paris of 2000, as seen by Robida. After the end of the performance at the Grand Opera House, the audience is flown home in small personal airplanes or Airbuses. What's not an alternative to flying cabs? Or his visualization of the military hardware of the future, warship submarines taking part in battles, sophisticated artillery systems. Fighters on bicycles turned into mechanized units. Swap bicycles for exoskeletons and you get a 21st century reality. So is it really sci-fi or an echo of memories of the past? Aircraft landing pads, lighthouses of sorts, and even meteorological installations. Sounds intriguing, doesn't it? And here's another interesting shot, signed as a chemical artillery lieutenant. Translated into modern language, we're talking about a chemical warfare specialist, a sort of chemical attack expert. In addition to the many flying ships and air convertibles, Robida also focused on a device he called a planetary energy capture device. How's that for a concept for an alternative energy source that could change the world? But enough about the visionary French cartoonist prophet. Let's switch to another no less mysterious find, hieroglyphs from the ancient temple of Osiris in Abydos, discovered back in the 19th century. At that time it was not possible to decipher them, but in 1992, scientists Egyptologists from Munich allegedly unraveled their meaning. Now just take a look at these images. First, ufologists and supporters of paleocontact noticed the incredible similarity of some symbols to modern technology. Helicopter, tank, some kind of submarine, or submarine, an object resembling an airplane or airship. How to explain it within the framework of the conventional dating of ancient Egypt? Could the inhabitants of that era have known about or foreseen such technologies? Honestly, I can't claim anything for sure, but there is one detail that raises even more questions. How does official science explain this phenomenon? Here's an excerpt from a scientific paper on the discovery. Now let everyone draw their own conclusions. What do we see? Prophetic knowledge of ancient civilizations, contact with extraterrestrial technology, or something completely different? Well, now let's look at the official scientific explanation. Most of the complex in Abydos was built under Pharaoh Seti I, who ruled at the beginning of the 13th century BC. It was under him that the first inscriptions were inscribed. Later his son, Pharaoh Ramses II, decided to rewrite them, and this was a common practice in ancient Egypt. As a result, the two inscriptions overlapped, creating strange images. To understand how this could happen, it is worth understanding how inscriptions were remodeled in Egypt. Old hieroglyphs were knocked off with a chisel. A layer of wet plaster or other mixture was put in their place. Then a new inscription was pressed in. But in Abydos, for some reason, the old signs were not knocked down, but simply covered with a layer of plaster. Over time, part of the coating crumbled, and as a result, there were incomprehensible symbols, which today many people take for images of modern technology. For example, the helicopter appeared because the end of the title Seti I, the conqueror of 9 bows, that is, the enemies of Egypt, was changed into the title Ramses II, the defender of Egypt, the conqueror of other countries. Other strange symbols resembling tanks, airships, gliders, and even something resembling a UFO appeared in a similar way. Official sources have long since solved this mystery, but on the internet you can still find publications claiming that the Abydos hieroglyphs are proof of paleocontact and alien visits. Let me remind you, friends, that this is not my point of view, but the official version of archaeologists. But to be honest, I find this version a bit of a stretch. Really, how many times can I overlay my name on other names? But I'm unlikely to get a picture of a quadricopter or a schematic drawing of an electric scooter as a result. Do you think it was an accident or something more? But that's just for the record. Our world is a place full of mysteries, interesting and not fully explored. Therefore, I quite admit that the inhabitants of ancient Egypt could see something similar, though not the real technique of the 20th century. For example, chronomirages, a phenomenon that has long been discussed even in official science and does not surprise anyone. So why not? We saw strange objects, captured them in the annals of hieroglyphics. So much for the helicopter. So much for the tank. But why bring in some kind of superimposition of the names of pharaohs through chisel and plaster? You know, when we talk about ancient Egypt, pyramids, and suddenly the words chisel or digging stick come up, I immediately remember this picture. By the way, I remember very much the comment of one girl under this picture. I think that to build all the Egyptian pyramids, mankind would simply not have enough trees. So neither sticks nor logs would have helped. And you know she's right. Besides, I somehow do not observe abundant forests in Egypt. What do you think? Don't be silent, be sure to leave a comment. I want to apologize in advance for any errors in the text or voiceover. I am still learning, and the channel language is not my native language. The voiceovers are done by artificial intelligence, so if you notice any inaccuracies, please let me know so I can fix them and improve the quality of the content. I'd also welcome your feedback and thoughts on the topic. Your support in the comments motivates me to keep finding new and exciting stories. Thank you for your understanding and participation. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and click the bell so you don't miss new stories.